Hey boys and girls, so making a little progress on the G35 project. Um, Hopefully this weekend we'll get some mechanical stuff done. Uh, take a big swing at things this weekend, but the past few days, spare time, uh, been um, making up the input-output harness for the Holley CAN bus input-output module. This gives me an additional 8 inputs and 8 outputs, uh, in addition to the 4 and 4 that we have on the Terminator system. It's pretty close to maxing out the inputs that come, standard on the X. So I decided to get this little module and add 8 more of each for headroom. So been working on that. Also decided to kind of simplify the transmission hookups. We have a lot of sensors on the transmission and things that need to be triggered, so kind of made some sub harnesses for that. And later on we'll have to make a sub harness for the fuel pumps, just to get all the relays and everything in one nice harness, going back to the remote relay and fuse board in the trunk. Probably going to make another little board for up front for what I'm about to show you here. So this is what we've got. I'll show you the first thing is our transmission harness. I'll show you some of the things we're gonna be triggering that we need control over and access. So first thing first, this is a Low Dollar Motorsports shock travel sensor. This has 2 inches of travel. Have ground cable for it, and then has its own little 3-plug Deutsch for signal, 5-volt, and clean ground or sensor ground. This is gonna be the clean ground. So this will be mounted on the transmission gear selector lever by the pan. I'll make a little bracket, and this will actually tell my dash what gear I'm in, and I can do some other little fun things down the road. If we ever get an air shifter or anything like that, we can kind of use this to make sure we're in the correct gear. We have this is the dump valve solenoid, and we just went ahead and put a 2-pin Deutsch connector on that. Then we have our Low Dollar Motorsports combo pressure and temperature sensors. There's 2 of these. So we're going to have one on the case side, and has a 6-pin Molex. I'll get into that why I went 6 on this. And you have the other one for the cooler side that has a 5-pin connector on it. The reason I did this is so I can tell them apart. So I know the one on the 6 is my case and the one on the 5 is my cooler. I have a sub harness built just for those 2 sensors that has a 8-pin Deutsch, and then of course we have the 6 and the 5 to correspond to that. This will plug into the bigger input-output harness I'll show you in a minute. This is the other sub harness for the transmission, 6-pin Deutsch. This is for the dump valve for my trans brake solenoid. So we've got the actual solenoid side here. I want to put a little female spade connector on this to plug into the solenoid. And then there's the 3-pin Deutsch for the gear position sensor. So these two sub harnesses will plug into all the sensors on the transmission that I'm running. These go into the input-output module harness that we've been wiring up. So here's your main Tyco connector that goes into the back of the input-output module. If you're familiar with Terminator X, Holley stuff, is the standard connector that they use. So it comes down, connects into your CAN bus off the Holley system. So I've got a dash, and I also have a USB cable. So I actually use all of these. I've got a splitter if I need it to, but use all of these. Sorry if the radio come on. Main ground for the input-output harness. So we built all this. All these wires come loose, so you can pin them out. I just decided to go ahead, put them all in here. I can wrap this up, whatever I'm not using. I can wrap it up under the dash if I need it later. Then, I've got it there and available. And I went ahead and printed this out from the Holley site for the input-output module. It has this on here, so I can go here and write everything down, what color it is, what it goes to. That way I've got, documentation of it. And then I kind of did the same thing on some of the sub harnesses I build, whatnot. I'll get that in digital form, that way I've got it if I ever need it later on down the line, troubleshooting or anything. So here's the female connector for all my transmission sensors. So the goal is those sub harnesses will come out in a grommet in the floorboard, on the transmission tunnel, on the passenger side. Since this is all going to be on the passenger side, plug into this. We've got a good, 2 feet I think is what I did this. So there's a 2-foot branch for the transmission harness. This is the sub harness, so this has power ground for the dump valve, trans brake solenoid. You got a dump valve relay, ground trigger. We have solid state relay for the throttle body, for the bump button. Got fuse 12 volt. This will go into another little fuse block relay board that I'll build for up front. So we'll have ground for the dump valve relays up here too. Pretty much it for the transmission side of things. And then we've got, I think 3 to 4 foot of additional whip for the additional inputs and outputs that I have available in this harness. I also have a transmission fan trigger for the Doral transmission cooler fan. Left this intentionally long because I don't know exactly where I'm going to run it at yet. I want to try to run it right beside the transmission under the car. May not be possible. Figure out the room, ground clearance, all that. May have to run it up front, so give myself about 10 foot of wire there just in case, and we can cut it, trim it, whatnot. This has to be ground trigger relay too, so wherever they're at, it's going to have a relay on it. All in all, about a 2-day project, getting all the wires ran, labeled, soldered, heat shrinked, jacketed, everything, and documented. So it should make it a lot easier. Maybe a little more complex than it should have been, but to me, having everything labeled, be able to plug and play everything and troubleshoot it and have individual harnesses for everything's, especially on the transmissions, probably going to make life a little easier. I probably could have, put all this in one harness, but, it is what it is. I like it. Gives me some play if I need to work on routing different things. We got however much cable Low Dollar gives you on these. I probably could have shortened those up with the sub harness, but we can tie this up excess underneath the trans blanket. But that's what we're working with. Everything come out pretty nice and neat. That may look like a jumble, but that'll be hidden up under the dash, and that's just extra cable for routing it where I need to. Probably won't even use half that much going to the auxiliary fuse and relay board. But that's where we at on the Infinity project. Stay tuned this weekend. Looking at pulling the engine out this weekend, getting that firewall removed, getting some things painted under the hood, some new things mounted. Hopefully get the engine, transmission, torque converter all mated together, spaced, and put back in the car, and have a big milestone moment with that, get everything bolted back on. But appreciate you guys watching. As always, like and subscribe. Helps the channel out. I know it's not much, but it will start growing once we get this beast on the road.